It's time to take a trip back to 1973. Let's get started.
Wow, Wizard, this thing's older than you.
It is by about 6 years.
Wow, it's doing pretty good for its age.
It is. It's in very, very good condition. You got a video going this week, or?
Yeah, I put one out yesterday about how to take some really amazing pictures. You guys should go check it out.
Yeah, there's a link in the description to check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways. That's her new channel. A lot of you have already headed over there. If you haven't already, you really should. There's really interesting videos going on Mrs. Wizard's Ways.
Yeah, I'm having fun doing it. It's kind of a different aspect of doing video and having fun.
It is very fun. Just like this brings back so many memories. I remember these being on the road when I was a kid. They weren't that old.
Well,
they may be 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, 10, somewhere around in there.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
But this is really cool. Why don't we take a peek at Pickle here?
Let's do it. This is a 1973 Buick Centurion with a 455. And speaking of the last two numbers, 55, it only has 55,000 miles on it. This customer is local, doesn't live too far from the shop. We've worked on it a few times in the past. We just keep it going for him. But it seems like every time that he brings it here, there's less and less parts available. It's really getting kind of sad. A lot of these old cars, you want to try to keep them going. Sometimes it can be cheaper than buying a new car. But what are you to do when there's no more parts? I'm running into that on a couple things I'm going to show you guys. But before we dive into what's wrong with this beautiful Buick, I know you guys want to check it out. Let's take a look around it. This is my favorite part of this car, is the front end. It is so regal. It's beautiful. It screams American. There's no other cars in any other countries, especially in the 70s, that have this type of style. It is strictly American, and I love it. It's kind of a pickle green color. Actually, the customer calls and says, hey, you got some issues with pickle or pickles. I'm not sure if it's more than one pickle, but as we go down this side, you can see that it's nice and straight all the way down. The paint's a little faded in places, but it's very, very good for the age. You can see it is a convertible top, and the top does work, but I will not be operating it because it's old. At any given time, it could break. I don't want it breaking on me. This is the area of serious steel bumpers. This is not the bumpers of today that crush or compress or bounce back or anything like that. In fact, these things do the damage. They can actually damage the other vehicle. But they are very, very stout. I'll knock on it here. Nothing plastic about that, Mrs. Wizard.
Nope, that is some seriously strong stuff.
This thing is a tank. I do know that it does have little rubber, they're called rub strips or bump strips on these, so if someone does lightly back into your car, it just kind of bounces a little bit. But you could back into something very serious, strong with this and break it, because it is very stout. It does have the wire look hubcaps on it, which look very classy and very nice on this Centurion. I don't know that I've ever seen another one of these. I've seen lots of old Buicks in my day, but I haven't seen a Centurion other than this one before, and there's a reason for that. So let's talk numbers. I actually have some pages on my phone with a lot of really cool information on why these are kind of rare. They made 44,976 Centurions of all the years that they were made. Only 5,739 were the convertible. So only 5,000 of these exist. How many are left today? 500? Probably not very many. 22,000 hardtops, 4 doors, 16,000 something 2-door hardtops. Out of 821,000 Buicks that year in 73, only 44,000 were Centurions. This has the 455, which is 260 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. That's today's numbers. A good small block Chevy could probably keep up with this thing, but this is getting into the smog era when things are detuned for emissions. Not exactly catalytic converter time, but we're getting into some time where power starts to drop off. When this thing was new, it was about $4,500, brand new on the showroom floor. Imagine that, guys. This big thing was only $4,500, brand new. It weighs 4,300 pounds, almost $1 per pound. That's what you get with this car when it was new. let's go ahead and get the hood popped and look at the glorious 455 under here. While we're getting the hood open, this reminds me, I've actually had this happen when I was a kid many years ago. These cars with these big old doors were shin scrapers. You get out, you're not thinking, you're talking to somebody, and you go to close it. I mean, the corner of that thing will just, it'll almost cut you. These things can be very dangerous, and they weigh 200 pounds or something. They're very, very heavy.
Yeah, please be careful. You know, you've already got a viper bite on one of your legs.
Right, so I'll definitely not want to do that. As we're opening the hood, you can also see here is our turn signal indicators. There's little fiber optic or little lights inside of here that are not on your dash. They're actually out here on the corner, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and get this thing open and look at our BBB. Not a BBC, it's not a big block Chevy. It's a big block Buick. It's not an old 455. It is a Buick 455. You can see it has air conditioning. There's our alternator. 260 horsepower out of that massive engine. So what's crazy is the little Ferrari 308 there with a small 3-liter V8 has 210 horsepower.
Don't be bashing on my car.
Well, it's actually a lot of power in a small package. This thing's massive. It only makes about 50 more horsepower. Like I mentioned, they were kind of detuned. The compression ratio is 8.4. You could go back into the late 60s and these engines had 10-to-1 or 11-to-1 compression. They're starting to dial it back during these years. This is the 4-barrel, 455-4, that's what that means. But there's not a whole lot going on. We'll show you what we've found that's wrong with the cruise control here in a little bit. But this is really interesting. Only in the early 70s that I've seen this is where they had this white, almost like a pearl plastic, fan shroud, radiator reservoir. Why they didn't use just black plastic, I don't know. It's kind of odd. Maybe it's recycled plastic. Let's go ahead and jump into the interior and let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I fell asleep there for a second. These cushions feel like a soft, comfortable little couch. No, looky there. It does say it has 55,300 miles on there. That is just amazing. And you're going to see, even though this has quite a bit of plastic, you'll see over there, we've got our HVAC controls. Plastic in there, looking fabulous. And we go over here, we can see here's our AM and FM radio. Very nice. And a nice analog clock, which is on clock, which I do believe is actually pretty accurate. So nice. This is in amazing condition. There's no cracks. Look at the speaker. All of those little holes, there's no little sections missing. I've seen so many where it's just like, you know, there's a whole part missing, looks halfway to the Grand Canyon. Everything's in really good shape. We've got the Centurion little logo right there. We've got a very big glove box. Let's take a peek. And they have put about every registration and their book is all in there. So, they do keep track of all their records. And there's a lovely little cup holder. There is a big space right there, and I imagine that's going to be part of what the Wizard is going to be going over because the floorboard also has a few pieces and parts out as well. One thing that they have added, and it probably goes a little bit more like this, they probably adjusted because they're working in there, but we have the ever so mobile cup holder, and I imagine that is the cassette tape underneath that microfiber cloth. The 70s. The era of the CB radio. It's amazing. Obviously, it is an add-on. We can see that they have tacked it in there as well, but this is quite amazing that they have kept it in for all this time. As we move to the seat, the passenger seat is quite nice. It looks very plush. It is leather and there is no rips, there's no tears. And as we scroll over, you'll see that there is a center section. There is no center console. It is a bench seat in the front. And one thing that's really nice is there is the armrest. And look at the gearing on that. It just slides down effortlessly. There's no rust going on there, so it's not binding and catching. It's just quite nice and smooth as it lays down. As we move to the door card, it's in pristine shape as well. There's just a lot of nice, kind of an ivory leather in here with little accents of wood, well, faux wood here and there as well. Do note that it does have power windows, which is working quite nicely. As I move to the back seat, again, lots more sofa back there, nice and soft and cushy. Could take a nice nap back there. No rips, no tears, no problems whatsoever. Notice that we have, not on our door card, but I guess the side wall there, we do have control for that little triangle window, and it comes with a ever so convenient ashtray. As we look at our headliner, which in this case is the convertible top, you can see that there's no problems whatsoever. There's no light shining through as I kind of pan back and forth. It is nice and dark. No problems at all. You can tell this has been garage kept, and I think it might be using the same garage door opener it had at least since the early 90s, maybe late 80s. That garage door opener is nothing we see in contemporary design. So, this is nicely kept in a nice safe spot. As we move to that steering wheel, wow, that is a massive steering wheel. Obviously it's 73, so there's no airbag, so there's not that big center section. Nope, we've just got this center kind of a shape here for our horn. Interesting. So enough of this talk of the interior. Let's see what's going on with this thing. Why is it here in the shop?
One of the first things a customer has complained about is his mirror has gone floppy. I actually have it disconnected or actually pulled off the housing here. But unfortunately, you really can't find pieces or repair individual parts to this. Let me show you guys. If you watch where that shiny little wire is there, I will manipulate the mirror adjustment. It's broken. And there's no real way to attach that back to the mirror. There was a little ball inside of there. You can see the little hole where it went into. These are intricate, tiny little cables that are really non-repairable. Back in the day when you had issues with this system, you didn't buy individual little cables or individual little pieces. Just like in this picture here. You buy the entire mirror assembly and the little joystick that's on the door. It comes as one complete unit, already assembled. When they put it together at the factory, it is not meant to be repaired or taken apart. This is just unit construction, even all the way back in the 70s. I've looked online and I can find this mirror assembly for other Buicks and Oldsmobiles, Cadillacs, all kinds of cars, but this specific Centurion mirror assembly right here, I can't find one. I actually have a guy that I can call. It gets a hold of a lot of old parts for me, and I told him I got a 73 Centurion, I need the mirror assembly, and he just laughed. He said, I haven't seen one of those in over 10 years, Car Wizard. You're probably not going to find one of those. So the other option is I can fix this into a static position where at least it's usable, but it will no longer be adjustable really. It's kind of a bummer, but this isn't like an engine part where it was used on multiple different vehicles. This specific design with the molding around inside the mirror is specific to the Centurion. I really don't want to just throw on any old part on it. So that's where we're at with the mirror. The next thing was the speakers. There's 4 of them in this car, which is really rare in 1973. Most had 1 speaker, maybe 2 up in the dash, and that was it. Let me show you what we found. So one of the annoying things this customer is saying about his stereo is the speakers will cut in and out while he's driving. They're just getting old and worn out. I've got some static playing, and if I tap that one over there, it'll make a weird noise like it's blown. You can hear it. There, it came alive. Now it went dead again. And now it's dead, it won't even work anymore. There's 2 in the dash. It does have, you can see the perforations in the center for it just had an AM radio only back in the day. It's one of the things I checked with the hole that Mrs. Wizard showed you. So I looked up inside to see if there's a center speaker. There is not. It only has the 2 dash speakers here, which I'll have to pull the cluster out to get to that one. Pull the glove box out to get to that one. It's going to be very, very delicate work because we don't want to crack the dash or break anything. Then there's 2 more speakers in the back. And there you can see, even in this convertible pocket, there is 2 speakers, one on either side. There's a black grill on the left and on the right. I will need to get into there and replace those as well. So that's a mirror problem. That's also the speaker problem he's having. There's another issue, which is the cruise control stopped working. It was working perfectly. I found out that the brake switch is actually starting to fail. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But that really wasn't the main problem. And on these older cars, when you mention cruise control stopped working, I actually get kind of scared because, let me show you guys why. You smell gas fumes, Mrs. Wizard?
It is a little smelly up here.
Welcome to 1973, before emissions and charcoal canisters. Your whole garage would smell this way, and it was normal back then. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just the way it is. But anyways, this right here, your speedometer cable hooks into. That's what actually registers speed for the cruise control system. And if it fails, where are you going to find that at? That's not a carburetor rebuild kit at your local Napa or something like that. That is very, very hard to find. Luckily, it still works. What I found was on the actual diaphragm. If I pull down, you can see there's a hole. See it there, guys? So this system registers the speed and applies or releases vacuum to that diaphragm to operate the cruise control. It's not going to work with the diaphragm torn. I also talked to my guy about finding that specific diaphragm just for the Centurion, and again he laughed. He said, man, those things are gone. He said, you're going to have to get one off a Chevy truck or something in the 70s and see if you can adapt it. It probably will work. It'll work just fine. I did find those are available still, but it's just getting really, really hard to find parts on these old cars.
Okay, Car Wizard, couldn't you just add an aftermarket cruise control to this?
You could, but that would really hurt the resale value. You want to try and keep it stock as much as possible. You want to open the hood and see all the original AC Delco and GM parts, not some Chinese aftermarket black box. That doesn't look good under the hood of one of these. And as we go further into the future, just with Jay Leno's garage, Jay Leno has people on staff. All they do is hand make parts with machine shop machines like mills and lathes and castings and all kinds of things like that, because he has cars where they have officially stopped making parts and there are no more parts anywhere on the face of Earth. So you have to make your own parts from scratch. We're not to that point yet with these old cars, but it could get that way 10, 20 years from now trying to find parts for this. Good luck. And also it comes to mind with a Ferrari 348 engine out of Eurasian Bob's Ferrari 348. It makes as much power, being a little 3.4 liter V8, as this giant 455. Again, it's kind of emissions and detuning and things like that in the 70s. They call it the malaise era. They ride really well, no power, very low power. Some of them getting into 180 horsepower or less on a giant engine. It's really crazy. But anyways, that's where we're at with this car. It's going to be a couple $1,000s to go through all this stuff, because people that do have the parts for these cars, they know what they got. They know that it's basically the price of gold. You want this part, it's not going to be 30 bucks, it's going to be 300 bucks, and if you don't like it, don't buy it. It kind of sucks, but when you do find that one part you need, you have to be able to just jump on it. And this guy would do it. He'd have no problem. Let's do it. Let's get it done. I want my car right. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on Pickles, or the 348, or the Murcielago, or all kinds of cars that are in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we appreciate it. Make sure to click on the link below to go to Mrs. Wizard's Ways, which is Mrs. Wizard's new channel, and check out her videos there. There'll be one video a week coming out. Very informative things for you guys to watch there. And also click on the subscribe button for this channel, because there's many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.